welcome to the, what the hell are you doing? Oh. Alright then. On with the show. And welcome back to the Comic Book ER Show, a show where I take characters from comic books and adapt them into live action so that they are in-universe respectful and comic book respectful, and so everyone's happy with the suit in the end. So it's not too dull or too fabulous. We'll talk more about it later. Of course, before we get into our next victim, just something I gotta say real quick. Any characters, scenes, panel stacks, articles, songs, anything you might see is not owned by me and is owned by respective companies, musicians, creators, writers, and whatnot. We're not trying to copyright anyone, we're just trying to have fun. Anyways, we will be discussing comic books versus live action. Of course, we'll be discussing his movie form and then his comic book form. Then we'll have some suit options that we'll draw up. We'll talk about dull versus fabulous. And then maybe I'll draw a couple things that I would like to see. Anyways, let's get into it. Today's victim, Mark Martin, aka the Weather Wizard from DC Comics. So the one I'll mostly be going off today will be the CW Flash mostly, because it's really the only one he has. He has other appearances, of course, and I kind of have trouble with his origin because they kind of just jump right into it. It's kind of weird. It's unlike all the other characters I've done so far. But his suit isn't really that complicated. I don't understand why they couldn't really just do it right. And, when it comes to character like Weather Wizard, it can be very possible to see why his suit wouldn't work in live action. But at the same time, it's kind of like adaptation versus what he actually comic book looks like. So you kind of have to evolve things, you know what I mean? So I'll get more into it in a second, but it's just, sometimes dullness and fabulousness. Okay, I'll just jump right into it. Let's go. So Weather Wizard first appeared in The Flash number 110 in January of 1960, and he's nicknamed the Weather Wizard, of course, because of his ability to control the weather. He gets it from his brother was a scientist. Kleb Martin was a scientist who invented this wizard wand, which I think his brother always invents the wand. And there's a little controversy, a little weird about his brother's death. Sometimes he kills his brother. Sometimes it's someone else that kills his brother. But I believe in the original version, there's two versions of him in the comic books, where in one version his name is Marco Martin, and they were part of the mob or something, and him and his brother was killed by someone else, and he wants revenge or something like that. And in the original version he kills his brother for his but then it's really confusing because he has this mental block sometimes where he thinks that he murdered his brother, but then anyways, besides that, he just kind of gets the wand and immediately starts trying to take over the world, basically taking over the country. He just immediately jumps into being Weather Wizard, and it's kind of weird because the other characters, they kind of evolve into it, but it just seems that when he appears, he finds his brother dead, and then he finds the Weather Wizard wand, which he takes it, becomes Weather Wizard, and says, he tries to commit all these schemes and stuff, tries to take over the world using the weather powers, and then he finds that he has a son, and then a son named Jack, or not Jack, Josh Jackham, and he wants to kill him and take his powers so he can have abilities. But then in the New 52 version, his name's Marco Martin, and he has this kind of like giant staff thing, and so the wand was put into this machine that gave him powers, and so he actually has abilities in that version, and it's not just in the original version it's just the wand that has the powers. But he has weather manipulation, obviously, electroblast, aerokinesis, flight, cryokinesis, thermokinesis. He's supposed to be a genius level intellect, but I wouldn't put him on the same scale as his brother who made the wand. It says he managed to create a weather control station, which creates frigid weather to cut Wyoming off from the rest of the country. All right. So I guess I can go into the CW. So in CW, his brother is kind of like the fake weather wizard. Like, he's the first one to appear in the show. First villain. He appears, has a really cool moment, creates a really huge tornado, and kind of in a way becomes more powerful than his brother because they kind of use the show to downplay his performance. So they're like, in the original timeline, he wants revenge for his brother, and so Mark Martin comes along after Joe kills Joe West kills Clyde Martin. Mark Martin appears later in the show, like an episode later, and he wants revenge for his brother, and he tries to kill Joe, and he just kind of wears like a jacket, which I'm actually not mad at. I just wish it had a little more color, and as far as that goes, literally, he has an episode where he's like creating a tsunami, and he's about to destroy the town, and then Barry goes back in time, finds him before that happens. That never happens. He goes to jail instantly for trying to... Well, he kills like a doctor or something, and technically that's like the whole episode. Like, he kills a doctor, and then Barry finds him, puts him in prison. Like, there's no interactions between him and Weather Wizard, really. And it's kind of sad, because the next time you see him, it's like season... it's at the end of season 1, and Captain Cold helps them escape, and they just kind of go off on their own, do their own things. But then, like, in season 2, he reappears, and him, Captain Cold, and Trickster try to team up, but then Captain Cold doesn't want to team up, because why would they? That would be the rogues, right? And we can't have the rogues all be in the same room, more than just 2 fucking people. So they kind of move away from that, sadly. And it's just Trickster and Weather Wizard, which is still a fun episode. I wish there was more to it. You see, and then like he gets put in prison. All right, he gets put in this cell that the Flash makes for him. But the thing that fucks me up is the next time you see him, it's like season 5, and he has a daughter, and he's been in prison this whole time. He looks exactly the same as he did 15 fucking years ago, which is no biggie, but it's like, come on, guys, you couldn't give a little bit of fucking effort. It's like maybe he had longer hair, maybe he's a little more scruffier, because when he appeared, he just wore like a jacket, and then it seems in the comics he wears like this kind of like one outfit kind of thing, like it's like from his neck to his feet, and then sometimes it cuts off right at the sleeves. Sometimes it actually is just a long jacket and a shirt underneath because of New 52. See, his original appearance, he wore like that, like almost like a one outfit kind of jumpsuit, and the collar went way up, like past his head, and he wore like an eye mask, which is fine for the 60s. But then there's an iconic version that I kind of like, where it's like the collar is kind of realistic, and it's just him wearing like a kind of like a jumpsuit, But I do appreciate the New 52, where it's like a longer jacket, and he's got like a staff. Kind of looks more like a wizard in a way, which is fun. You could do a lot with this character, and so I'm kind of making two versions here. A version where what I think he should have looked like in his first appearance in season 1, and then what I think he should have looked like in his second appearance in season 2. Well, while I'm drawing that, I kind of want to explain why, when it comes to a character like Weather Wizard, and he's got the big collar, the giant collar that goes all the way up past his head. I don't know if you've seen, but there was once a guy who kind of there was a movie, I guess, or a show called The Super Friends, like eons ago, like 1970, and he wore that, like, a live action version of what I'm talking about, where the collar goes past his head, and he wears that, like, sleeping face mask. And it's like, for a campy universe, it makes sense, right? But it looks stupid, right? It looks campy. It's too much. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Whereas, like, that from the Super Friends, played by, Jeff Altman, I guess? That's what it says here. Yeah, he was in an episode of Legends of the Superheroes, I guess. I thought it was the Super Friends, but whatever. And he was in an episode called The Challenge, if you want to look it up. It's made by Warner Brothers. And I haven't seen it, but it's, besides CW, that's his only live-action appearance. And I'm not counting the one from the canceled Justice League movie, Justice League Mortal, I guess, which was supposed to be a TV show, I guess, about the Justice League, and Weatherman was going to be the villain of that first movie episode, whatever. And since he's not called Weather Wizard, and they didn't own, maybe they don't own the rights to Weather Wizard, but unless he's called Weather Wizard, I'm not going to count it. Here's the thing I want to talk about for a second. When a character is way too dull, I feel like it kind of kills the hype. It kills the character a little bit, because when Weather Wizard appeared in that first episode, and he was his brother, technically, it was fun to see how his power level went. But the thing is that even when it was Clyde Martin, where they had a whole episode where he was Weather Wizard, he just wore normal clothing. He literally dressed like he was going to go work in a mechanic's shed. And then his brother comes, and he's just wearing, like, a jacket. And it's not like this guy has, like, a preference. I'm sure the guy would have worn whatever, but, if you've seen this guy in other roles, this Liam McIntyre, I'm sure I'm messing that up, but he just wears kind of like a jacket and some regular clothing. So does his brother. And, when it comes to that, I mean, they keep putting characters in all black. It's because it's like, it worked for Blade, and I know I've said it like 1,000 times, but you can't just keep putting every single character in black because you're afraid to give them a full costume. Barry is running around in a red onesie, and you're afraid to give another grown man a onesie. So Barry is the only one allowed to wear a onesie, you know what I mean? Either give them both their costumes or give none of them their costumes. Because when you're watching a show or a movie or something, and you see this cool hero like the Flash, and you see his suit, his lightning bolts, and the yellow lines all over him to signate that he has lightning bolts while he burns, and then a character like Weather Wizard pops up, and he's just wearing like a black jacket and a black t-shirt and black pants. And he's just called Weather Wizard. And he looks he just looks like a normal guy. There's nothing to insinuate that he is Weather Wizard at all. At least like when it came to Captain Cold's like creation, he was creative. I liked it. They had the goggles. He had the snow, jacket, which made sense. And it's just like, when you have a character, and this person knows this character from the comics, and maybe the suit's ridiculous, but when you make it so dull, I mean, I'm not talking about like dark, like you can use the color black, which I'm going to use the color black in my drawing here in a way that you should. And when you use black, I'm not saying don't use black, like I'm not against using black, the color black on costumes. I'm just saying when you make it dull, like for example, the DC animated, when I think he appeared in Superman, but when Weather Wizard appeared, he wore literally green glasses, which were pretty cool, but then he just wore like a green jumpsuit with no details and a belt. He looks like, literally, quite literally looks like what I would imagine an engineer to look like in the future. He does not really look that creative, and it's animation. You can have too much dullness in animation. He just wears black gloves, see-through green goggles, and a very bland the rest of the suit. And when it comes to character being dull, I'm not saying don't use black, I'm saying stop overusing it to the point where he's head to toe in black. Mix the black with some darker colors, like if you have him wearing green pants, make the bottom of his pants black a little bit so it's like like it's worn out. Like the way they did Reverse Flash. You notice how I'm not doing like Reverse Flash? Like he's not on the list. And other characters like, Doctor Strange or something. Because their costumes look fine. The Doctor Strange's costume, huge giant cloak, but they made it make sense. They made it look cool and made it fun. And Reverse Flash, they made the bottom part of his suit all black, which I did like that suit. That suit was really cool. But then when they made him yellow and red, it was also accurate. It looked fine. I just think that color, do not be afraid of color. As I say, I know I say it a lot. But on the risk of being too fabulous, don't have so much fucking color on a character that they're literally walking around in a rainbow leotard, where it's like ridiculous. When you're making a costume and adapting it, think about the character. Think about why is he wearing this? It was kind of hard for me to find Weather Wizard's like reasoning for why he wears that, and it just kind of jumps directly into him being Weather Wizard. Doesn't really explain why he wears like the suit. No explanation. The New 52 is just kind of implied that he's just wearing that because that's what he wore when he got his powers, and he just like never changed. And so, but I feel like his iconic version where it's like the jumpsuit it's kind of the perfect version because it's not overkill and it's not like so flashy that it's ridiculous. And so I wasn't against the using the jacket. Like I liked the jacket, but I kind of wish there was a little more color to it. Another weird thing, in the CW show, the wand is his weakness. It doesn't give him powers, but in season 2, it does. Like he uses it to shoot lightning at like the Flash for a second, and I just think they really underused his character. I think they should have had a moment where maybe in season 1 he came in wearing all this protective gear, because maybe when he summons lightning, maybe it affects him. Maybe his fingers go black or something. I think that would be cool. I kind of did like the idea. Like, I'm not hating on other designs. I'm just saying that there's some that are good and some that could have been done better. Like, the animated universe, I'm as surprised on as how dull it is, because it's animated. It's not like you're, like, making it a costume in reality, where you have to, like, think about 3D movements and stuff, and the character moving in odd situations. It's animated. You could have made him look exactly like he looks in the comics. You made Flash look the same, you know? So why the hell is he so... But I kept the idea of the kind of futuristic green glasses. I kind of like that idea. So I came up with that. Well, I didn't come up with that. I just added it to the season 1 suit, where maybe when he comes in, he's got these like things to help him block out the lightning or the sun, or maybe it protects him from the storms that he creates. And I think he should have used more of his powers, because I realized after rewatching that every time Weather Wizard uses powers, he's either off screen or his powers are being shown and he's not on the screen. And when he is being shown, it's this huge moment where he's summoning a thing, but it never happens. Right? So it's actually fucking sad. But to think about it, the last time Weather Wizard used his powers in like huge proximity, where he's like in the scene and he's like floating, wasn't even Mark Martin. It was his brother in the very first episode. I think they should have not been afraid to make the rogues. And I think it'd be cool that if in season 2, obviously some time has passed, you know, like who's going in to the special prison, and like they put him in a prison in season 1, and he comes back and he's like, who's giving him haircuts? You know, like who's like giving him the look? I think he should have become more unhinged and been a combination of I tried to make a combination of New 52 plus his modern look with the jumpsuit. I guess the first one kind of does give off like Shocker vibes, kind of, like a little bit, not entirely. But the second one, I was kind of thinking, like, what if he kept the wand, and then in like season 2, he looks a little more wizard-like his hair's a little longer, his beard's a little longer, only to reference his New 52 version, where he's Marco Martin instead of Mark. And I feel like you could do a lot with this character. I really tried not to add a hood, because I have a bad habit of giving characters hoods and just saying, but he would be a good character to use a hood for. You know, like his mask doesn't always like have to be a mask. So I had the idea, I tried to draw it, but I had the idea where maybe the green, instead of him wearing like a green mask or green goggles, maybe there's like green lightning or something coming out of his eyes, which there's a lot of them where it's yellow lightning, but you know, make it your own. Add green lightning, fuck it. And I add a little more tatteredness to like a longer jacket that he has, with a little bit of a comic accurate shirt. But I'm just surprised that they make it so dull that there's like no design at all. It's just a plain t-shirt. And at least try, you know, put some detail on it. I tried to make it so in that first suit right there, I added some reflective material, so maybe like the lightning absorbs into his reflective jacket, you know, something interesting. And then with this here, with the season 2 one that I'm drawing, I was the whole hand wrist things is that he doesn't really have those in the original version, but I don't know, I just feel like his original costume, although it's one of my favorite ones, it's a lot of green and not enough back and forth between the yellow. And so it's kind of like the vibe that I went with. I'd also like to point out that when it comes to making a character way too fabulous, like, it becomes campy, but that's pretty obvious, you already know that. But where's the line, right? When does a character become so fabulous that he's campy, or so dull that he's just not even a comic book character and he's just like a guy in a suit and tie? Which, that's the worst sin that you can give a character. Have a character like Thor and put him in a suit and tie. Sinful. Characters like the Vision, you know, have him in a suit and tie, like, straight up having characters appear and be in normal clothing while the hero is running around in red tights doesn't really make sense. Either have both the characters or none of them. And it's just, you know, the best way to figure out if their character's too dull or too fabulous is moderation. You know, that's how I figure it out. I just say, you know, does the character feel comfortable in this costume? Does he think it's too ridiculous? And based on personality, based on the character's suit kind of reflects their origin, you know? So my whole thing is that him not wearing shoes in the second one is because I thought, well, he has weather power, so maybe he should be more in tune with the world, like the earth. So maybe he doesn't wear shoes when he comes back. Maybe he's more unhinged. Maybe he's closer in connection with his powers. His powers, also another thing you can consider, depending on what their abilities are. His is weather. And so my thought was like, oh, okay, so no shoes, no, you know, gloves. Maybe he has like kind of like a torn suit because things get crazy out there in the world, and weather affected clothing makes sense for a guy who has weather powers. Also, what you're seeing here is just a little dream of mine. I made 2 dream action scenes that I wish to God were in them. So this is kind of my idea of what I think Weather Wizard would have looked like if, in the beginning of Ezra Miller's Flash movie, instead of it being babies being microwaved and random thugs, it may be Weather Wizard, just as a fun, maybe, what if world. I had the idea, maybe, just kind of going off that universe where they kind of made things super intense, but at the same time, really grounded. So I try to make him go full wizard in this one, where his staff, like, he doesn't just have the wand, but he has the staff from New 52, and it's so big, it has like a little ball on it that has little lines, and maybe he like can summon lightning, and he's the one destroying the hospital and the town, and Batman was like, oh, I can't defeat this guy, I should, you know, try to get Flash in on this. And that's kind of my idea, but kind of combining to the New 52 version and making, maybe they would make Marco Martin instead of him being Mark, and just me considering all the different options that you could do. But you don't have to, once again, you don't have to make the characters like I do. Like, for example, the reason I'm adding a belt there is because, you know, depending on, you know, wizards, sorcerers, necromancers, they always have like a belt with a bunch of shrunken skulls. So I thought that'd be fun to do that, and maybe like a long, damaged cloak. Kind of him being like an actual wizard at this point, because Wonder Woman exists, which means magic actually is a thing. So I don't know, that's just my estimate of what I think Zack Snyder would have done, I suppose, since that was his like little chance to make his own DC universe. The thing is too, is it's kind of interesting as far as comic books versus movies. When it comes to, like, this guy played in a movie where he was in like a medieval world, or something, and I think it's kind of interesting where whenever you have a character that's like in Greek mythology, or character from the medieval times, or in some ancient war, they are totally not afraid to just whip up any sort of idea or suit for absolutely no reason, just throw away a movie. But when they have a character that actually has like, oh, here's all these options of the suit that you could make, they're just like, hey, black pants, black shirt, perfect. Way too dull. That's kind of like my problem with one of the other episodes that I have, Hawkeye, where I think his agent form, where he's just wearing like, he has like sleeveless shirt, and he's literally just wearing a t-shirt with an arrow on it, is disgusting. Absolutely fucking disgusting. As a person who's made 1,000 million different suits, it's just so boring. You know, it's like, I'm sorry, it's like some people like that suit, but I can't do it. I can't do it. It's, and the only, you know, he's got an H on his belt. Like, oh, wow, oh, he's Hawkeye? I'm not trying to talk about Hawkeye, but just a pet peeve that I have. When it comes to Weather Wizard, you can really have a lot of fun with Weather Wizard. You could You know, you can give him a staff, and sometimes the name helps. Like if you're struggling on figuring out what you should give a character, just kind of be like, oh, what do I think a wizard looks like? Draw a wizard, you know, for a concept. I can kind of just do it freehand because I have been doing it a long time, and so I can kind of make it up as I go along. And I just want other people to kind of learn how to do that because it's a very fun process. Because you could just come up with anything on the spot. Just be like, why does he have that one line there? You know, why does he have little gold pieces on him, even though he's got like a tattered, ripped cloak? And you could just be like, well, he's a sorcerer, he's a necromancer, he's a master of magic. You can do whatever you want. But I say you can do whatever you want, but honestly, it's if you're looking for the perfect suit, don't go too dull and do not go too fabulous. Because if you don't want him if you want him campy, you want it to be like, oh, it's a silly superhero villain, whatever. Make him wear a onesie with cloth, right? But if you're looking for grounded to the point where he looks like a CIA agent, you know, I think there's a medium between that. That you could find a really cool suit design between those where you don't have to go too heavy on dull or too heavy on fabulous. And it happens often in comic books, films. Also, I know I've never mentioned it before, but man, I guess this is a good chance to mention it. If there's any other characters that you want me to do that you think that aren't good in live action, that should be, or it doesn't have to be in live action, because as I said before, we have different episodes. We haven't got to them yet. That's like up to episode 13 that we'll start getting to different type episodes. But if you have a character that you think is horribly designed, and you can even send me designs through either my Discord or any of the links that I have on my website, on my YouTube channel, and I'll link them on the bottom. But I just wanted to put that out there, that you could, you know, any character, you know, I'll add it to the list, and it'll be a future episode. But anyways, back to the thing. Yeah, I think this would have been a lot cooler if in the beginning Batman were fighting like Weather Wizard, say, instead of like random thugs. I think it'd be really cool if he appeared and he had this big gold staff, which the gold is just for fun. You know, I added that just because I thought it would look really cool. And you know, maybe it's like a Tesla coil on a pipe or something. I don't really know. I just kind of had fun with it. And I gave him a super long hair, super long beard, because I kind of wanted to make the Marco version of him, and I didn't do that since I was doing the CW version. But this would be a nice dream for him to appear in this movie, make it slightly good. That would have literally made it at least a little bit better. Of course, it'll never live down the assassination of Dark Flash, which will be a future episode one day. But I kind of came with the idea where maybe he had an original suit underneath, and he just like has been a sorcerer for so long that he's become this, and which I think would be really cool. You know, because the way that they were doing it in that world, it was like, you know, everything's in the past. Like they had like Batman run by Richard Grayson's grave when he was like 5, and I was like, what are we doing? You know, it's so honestly, you can really do whatever you want with these characters, but a good scale I would use is it too dull? Is it too fabulous? Does this character want to wear this? That for me is where I go to. I go immediately to the character's POV. Like, does he want to wear it? And even if he doesn't, some characters, their suits are a part of them. Kind of like Cyborg. He doesn't really have a choice. A lot of characters, like Hulk, he just kind of looks like the way that he is. Abomination, a lot of those monster ones. But I'm talking kind of more characters like, excuse me, characters who their suits either reflect where they came from. Like Loki, his suit represents, he was from Asgard, he's wearing Asgardian armor. Or stuff like Taskmaster, where you're like, oh, he's collecting things from that simulate other characters, which is why he looks like 50 characters in one. It really depends on the character. And when it comes to Weather Wizard, green and yellow, of course, get your colors down. What colors do you think that he should wear or the character should wear? But ultimately, I try to stay as close to the comics without veering too far off. But I do like to have a little fun. Like that version that I drew, that wasn't a comic version at all. But I kind of made it my own thing. In this next one I'm making, a little fun idea that I had. We're just kind of having fun at this point. One of my favorite, even though it's not really accurate, and it gets a lot of shit, the original 90s Flash is the only other Flash content that's not 100% horrendous, and it literally is the only other Flash content besides the Flash show and the movie, and the Lego Flash movie, which is probably the only good one, to be honest. But when it comes to this one I'm doing right here, in retrospect, I totally apologize for those horns, the Flash wings. They look horrible now that I'm looking back on it, but I was just trying to get my point across. I had an idea for an episode that will never happen, which I think they should have done. Maybe an episode where Weather Wizard 90s. That's a dream of mine, to just have it more characters in the 90s Flash TV show. I once had an idea to have Reverse Flash in the show, but my idea here was they were kind of interesting. Like, the Flash suit was almost completely accurate to the time period, except the boots were black, and as you'll see, I make them accurate regardless, but I still try to make them look like who they are. I just make them like who they should be. And I don't know, maybe I thought it would be cool if they made an episode where Weather Wizard came across as this this magic being who could grant wishes or something. I just kind of had fun with it, and maybe there would be some hijinks going on where Flash meets this Weather Wizard, and he's going after Flash because I had a couple reasons. I was like, well, maybe there could be a reason because he knows that he's the Flash, and he knows who he's Barry Allen, and he knows that he's a forensic scientist in the police department and wants to figure out who killed his brother. Or I had another one where maybe he sees the Flash as a potential threat because he's powerful and tries to destroy him by taking advantage of him. And because Barry's a scientist, at first he doesn't believe it because it's magic. I know I'm talking about magic a lot, but it's only because he has the name Wizard in it. And sometimes you don't entirely have to go based off of the comics, which I know it's really fucking crazy to hear me to say that. But in my mind, the reason why I'm coming up with all these ideas is because I'm guessing this is what the 90s Flash would have done if they ever made Weather Wizard in their episode, kind of. So that's my idea behind it, why I'm going really off the rails and it don't make any sense. Because I feel like that's probably what the show would have done, based off of the show. I don't know, maybe there could have been, in the episode, he sets Trickster free, and then he sets Captain Cold free. I just really would love to have seen the Rogues ever together, because the only content they're in together is Flashpoint Paradox, the cartoon. And literally, that is the only place where they are together. Maybe there's other cartoons that they're together, but I just haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. As far as I know, the CW has tried to make them a live action, but they can't get more than 2 characters in a scene together. Like, they had one episode where it was like the Rogues, and it's just Captain Cold and Heatwave, and Flash is a speedster. So making him fight like 7 people is not insane because he's a speedster, and that's what a speedster can do. But I think it's kind of wild to just make an entire show about a character wearing a suit, and then all of his villains are just like people in jackets and shit. And I just kind of wish that they had more budget to continue making costumes, because it could have been really fun. I think that's another thing I wanted to say, is that sometimes I think when they do that and they make one character super, like when you take the costume away from a character, it kind of destroys the vibe for chances of him appearing in anything else, which is I think why they pushed him off the show and they made his like daughter do it, but she didn't have a costume either. And I think there's so much more that they could have done. There's so many arcs that they could have done. They could have, even if you don't have the budget, at least try a little bit to make it somewhat better than what that is, because I don't think there's anyone overlooking these things. And I mean, honestly, I think we're doing a better job. But anyways, this is a wish of mine. I wish that he was in the 90s Flash show. And, his suit's not very hard to make. Also, the thing I think that really sucks is that sometimes when characters are shown as too campy or too fabulous, as we say, that it destroys their chances of ever appearing in anything again. Like, for example, Polka Dot Man. No one ever thought Polka Dot Man was ever a cool character. Polka Dot Man was like a Z character. Like, there's A characters, like Joker, right? For example, let's just go off of Batman's roster, for example. An A character is like Joker. He's in every single movie. He's like the first villain Batman fights, kind of. He's always on top. That's the best. And then you have characters where like B characters, which I would label Two-Face as a B character, because he's not always, like, he's never a main villain. He's just a villain for Batman periodically, but he's still constant. He's still among the table, among the A's, but he's never, like, in charge. Then there's the Z characters, like fucking Condiment King. And, for example, like, there's a character called Weasel Wizard, where there's an alternate universe where everyone's a cartoon, and the Flash is a turtle. And that's like those are Z characters, like Polka Dot Man. And when the Suicide Squad, the second one, came out, it blew everyone's minds, because no one ever thought Polka Dot Man was ever a cool character. And now he's like my favorite character in the movie. And I don't know how they did that. But anyways, I'll stop yammering. It's been fun. I hope you guys maybe learned a little bit of something. Maybe you're drawing alongside. Once again, I've gotten some submissions. I've only gotten like one, but I would love to get more. And see you later.